All right, let's go ahead and get started. My name's Garrison, for any of you that don't know me. We're going to start off with the sign-up sheet. Now, please do not feel guilty if you do not put your name on here. But if you do not, you're not allowed to eat anything, okay? So make sure you put your name on here, and we thank Mary Kramer for the bananas, okay? So feel free. Feel free to put your name on here. We appreciate it. Let's go ahead and just start out with prayer. Today we're going to be, it's the kind of the topic we're supposed to be in is grandparents. So I don't know how many of you are grandparents in here. It doesn't look like too many, but we do have Karen. So she's going to get a lot out of this one today. But it's actually for everybody. So let's just go ahead and pray before we start. Lord, we just thank you just for your love, and we thank you for this class. We thank you for the minds that came together to start this class, and we just ask that it continues. We thank you for the people that have come here to speak each week, and we just ask that you just speak through us with the Holy Spirit, and just allow us to give knowledge to others that might need it to grow with their kids, and even with their relationships with their wives and their husbands and with their kids. Lord, we just praise you, and we just give you all the glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, we're going to start this off a little bit different. I'm going to give you just a little story that happened to me in my past. Justin always comes with these icebreakers, so I thought I'd try to show him up. It was about 9 o'clock at night, all right? I'm in my car, driving by myself. I'm going to my friend's house. Pouring rain. The rain's coming down hard. It's cold. It's probably about 40 degrees out, but it's pouring rain. So I'm driving along, and all of a sudden, boom, boom, I feel this, I hear this little sound, and then I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me, I have a flat tire. So I pull over the side of the road, and I'm getting close to my friend's house. The addition's over to the right, and I kind of veer over, and I get out of the car, and I look, and I'm like, oh, man, that's about as flat as can be. So I jump back in the car quick because I'm like, it's pouring out. I need to get in the car and just figure out what I'm going to do. So I'm just sitting here contemplating, and I'm like, well, I guess my friend's house is only about a mile away. I guess I can just run there as quick as I can, in the cold pouring rain. And so I'm like, let's just go ahead and do that. So I get out of the car, I shut the door, and I start running, and I look behind me. My car's moving. I'm like, no! What is happening? So I run back to the car, try to get in the car, the door's locked. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So I'm like, now what do I do? As the car is moving, it's starting to go into this person's yard. And I'm like,
There's no kids inside, right?
No kids, no, just me. And so it's pouring down rain, it's cold, and the car is moving into this old lady's yard. And so I only said old because we're talking about grandparents, I apologize. But so we're going into the old people's yard, and I'm running, I'm like, what do I do? So I get in front, and I'm kind of holding the car in place, and the car's not moving, and I'm thinking, okay, now what do I do? Okay, it's raining, it's cold outside, the car is moving, it's locked, and it's going into this old person's yard. No offense to any old people here, I apologize. And so I'm like, what I need to do is just put my foot right here and just kind of stabilize it. So I'm stabilizing here, and I'm like, now what do I do? I'm just going to look around, and maybe somebody will come by. So I'm waving at everybody. Stop! Stop! Like this. And they're driving by, and they slow down. And then they drive on. Like, no! Stop! I'm like, okay, well, I think I can outlast the gas. It's half tank. I might be able to do this. So I'm still holding the car in place. And I'm like, stop! And somebody else comes by, slows down, kind of stops and looks at me like, this guy's a crazy person, and takes off. Well, I think what happened is one of these people that drove by slow said, okay, there's somebody crazy on the road, we need to call the cops. So, now, a little side to the story is my dad's a prosecutor now, but he was a prosecutor in that county at the time. So I used to work out with a lot of the officers. I used to hang out with a lot of the officers, so I knew all the police officers. So when they pulled up, the lights came on. I'm like, okay, this is embarrassing. I know everybody here. Who's it going to be? So he comes out here, and Mr. Officer McCoy comes walking up. A little smirk on his face. It's raining. He's like, so what's up, Mr. Kenner? What's the problem? Well, let me tell you, it's in park. It's in drive, and because it's in drive, the door's automatically locked. I thought it was in park because the flat tire kept the car from moving, so I shut the door and it automatically locked. Went to get back in, now it's pouring, and I was in disgrace, standing there as the officer was dying laughing as he is walking back to his car to get something to unlock it. What's this have to do with grandparents? What it has to do with grandparents is the fact that that car I was driving was my grandmother's. With that said, I would like to offer this moment to my wife, Shelby Kenner, the nerd of the family, the book reader, the one that's going to talk to you about B8, Great Smart.
Sounds like a very nerdy topic, but it is a Christian author. She's great. So that's what I'm talking to you about today. I was given this maybe about a year ago by my mother-in-law, and so everything, I don't want to plagiarize, is coming from Kathleen Cook. And it was a very helpful book for me, especially as an adoptive mom. I don't know who of you know that, but we have 2 biological kids and 2 adopted from Haiti. And so this has definitely helped our family, just kind of relating to the ones who don't have our genes, because they completely don't have our genetics, maybe a little bit of his, but not mine. So I just kind of wanted to go through some of the things that we learned from that. And I have some notes here, and I'll try to make it quick because I think you'll learn more you'll benefit more as you talk to each other about your kids and how God's gifted them. So let's see. So I'm just gonna, they usually say people have a left and a right brain. So the left brain is the it's the logical, analytical, and the right brain is the more philosophical, subjective, artsy type thing. So there's the brain, the science, math, and then the art and music type. But experts have kind of said, and what she's kind of talking about is really there's much more to that. There's kind of like 8 intelligences that our kids could have. And so she went on to kind of describe them, and that's what I kind of want to describe there. And you can kind of see where you fall, where your spouse falls, and where your kids fall. And I would have completely kind of overlooked some of the things my sweet little Haitian kiddos had if I hadn't known that, because I'm the top 2, word smart and logic smart, where my adoptive kiddos are down below. So I'll just go through. So word smart, and it kind of, sorry, my kids kind of drew on there, but the things they think with. So word smart, they think with words. So this is how they process life. Okay, so word smart are typically the science, the math. They like words, they like to talk, they like to read. They're word smart. So that's the first one. The second one is logic smart. So this is my husband and my son Garrison. Logic smart, they think with questions. So they're kind of science, but they also they like to figure things out and solve things. They're going to ask why. They're going to do some of those sorts of things. And Garrison can figure out anything. He can fix it and get it together, and it's there. So there's like the engineers, their science. They're kind of the logic smart type kids. Picture smart is something I have no relation whatsoever, and that's where this kind of came out to me. So it's the artsy one. They think in pictures. So with me, I am just black and white. What she said, this author said, she'd have people picture a volcano, and the picture smart kids, they would have all these different colors, and they would just describe what their picture saw. For me, it's just brown volcano. That's all I see in my head. And so when you see that, there's differences there in how they think. The way this came out to me and our kiddos is London, so they always make you all this artwork. So my little London, who is a clone of me, she's word smart, logic smart, she brings me the same stick figure. I have 98 stick figures. Sweet little smile, and it's just adorable, and I just love it. But as a mom, you just put it to the side. We have piles. Dulcie comes, and she'll bring a cell phone carrier that she makes. I can put my cell phone in, a mat that I can sit on that's colored, that I do my hair. We've been praying for his sister-in-law to get married. She's 33. She made his sister a husband. She all in a tuxedo and everything. Here, Aunt Anna, there's your husband. And my mother-in-law, so this is where the grandparent thing comes in. We just saw that and put it in our pile of stuff. My mother-in-law's like, she has so much creativity, all that thing. And to me, and then I read the book, and I was just like, oh my goodness, there's a difference here. There's 97 stick figures, that's her sweet little way. And then there's my girl who comes up with all these other things. So I was like, okay, that is Dulcie. She's a picture girl, my little Dulcie. So she's picture smart. So kind of, just realizing, putting it on her back burner that that's my Dulcie. And not putting London in a box, because she also comes, and what Kathy said is that everyone can expand and grow their smarts, all these intelligence. They just have strengths that are more, they're at the top. Then there's music smart. That's nothing me or Garrison, but Dietrich. He's my little Haitian, and he'll jive to anything. So very great, knows all the words. He's music smart. And then there's body smart, and that's my sweet Dulcie girl too. I think Sarah, I was hoping Sarah would be in this room. Sarah, if Dulcie is in the same room as Sarah is stanced to become like Dulcie.
Oh, I'm ready to be tackled. I'm prepared.
Because this girl will run on top of her and hug her. Like, yes. So that is how Dulcie is. She
and
just
I love every second of it.
She thinks with her body. And that is very hard at first when I first got her. And this is how this book has blessed me. We first got her, I'm like, we need to get her to calm. These teachers are going to go crazy. This girl cannot stop moving. We took away sugar. She was not ADHD. She could, if she wanted to do her crafts, she would stay there forever. She was not ADHD, but I could not get her to sit still. And so we tried to extinguish it, and I'll talk a little bit more of that, when really this was her huge strength. So she was body smart, and some of your boys may be body smart. They love their sports. They love their athletes. Then there's nature smart. I think Tanya's probably nature smart. This is where you go outdoors and you're just loving life. You want to get outdoors. My little London's nature smart. She loves animals, and so they like biology and that sort of thing. So nature smart. It says they think with patterns. I didn't quite get that, but that's how she kind of described it at. So there's the nature smart. Sometimes nature smart can't be developed as much because of our techno age. We're inside and stuff. So it's making sure that your kiddos have access to go to the mountains or do things like that if you can't get them outside. Then there's people smart. People smart, they think with people. She described them a little different than the extroverts. Extroverts get energy from people, whereas they think with people. So she says, and she talks about it more if you want to read it, an introverted people smart person is kind of hard because they think with people, but they like to be alone. So I won't get into all those details, but that's how she kind of did it. They also can read people really well. And my husband is a people smart person. We call him a chameleon because he can get along with any type of person, and he's just right there with them and does. You do great at that. So there's some of our kids can be people smart, where they flourish when they're with people. So kind of getting them in atmospheres where they are. And then they're self-smart, and those are the ones that think really deeply. In their mind, there's so many choices, and they'll just sit there and ponder over each of those choices. They reflect. They like their alone time. And it's almost like knowing that is healthy for them. They need that. That's how they get their energy. And she defined them differently from introverts too. More that they just need time to themselves to think. So through this, our job is to kind of help identify those smarts and even those weaknesses. For me, it was a little powerful to know where I was weak, because you don't really know that. And then when you see it, you're just like, oh, okay, well, it's just because I'm weaker at that. It's not. I kind of got made fun of in high school a little bit by some of my girlfriends because I can never put clothes together right. I can't see. Now I just get what's on the mannequin because I can't do it. I truly can't see. I cannot decorate our house. I can't do any of that. And now it's like, oh, it's just because does that make sense? So it was kind of fulfilling for me to know, oh, okay, there's a reason behind that. And get help when you need help. So I think in our kids that can be a little powerful. And the other thing is our job is to expose them to a lot of those things because they can nurture all of them, okay? You don't want to put them in a box by any means, but that they know what their strengths are and stuff. And then first and foremost, we always talk about our identity is in Christ. So it's not based on our smarts, so they need to know that firsthand. So we've talked about that like crazy. But I do think there's, I'm going to have Garrison read some scripture basis for knowing kind of what our giftings are. And I know you guys know this, but I'll just get some scripture in here. 1 Corinthians 12, 14 through 21.
Even so the body is not made up of one part, but of many. Now, if the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, it would not for that reason stop being part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, it would not for that reason stop being part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? If the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? But in fact, God has placed the parts in the body, every one of them, just as he had wanted them to be. If they were all one part, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, but one body. The eye cannot say to the hand, I don't need you, and the head cannot say to the feet, I don't need you.
Okay, good. So God's definitely given us giftings, obviously. We know that, and helping our kids figure them out. One reason for that is kind of to help them with their confidence, to know this is where I'm strong at. This is how God has gifted me. If you look at this board, who do you think, which smarts do you think make the A's and the B's in school?
1 and 2.
1 and 2, yes. So the word smart and the logic smart. So this, she says she would go to these lectures, she'd have these adults come up to her afterwards with tears in their eyes because their music's smart and they've never had the smart used over them before. So as you're using that smart over your child, they're seeing smart because A's and B's aren't on their report cards, but they're seeing, okay, this is how I'm smart. Dulcie, who thinks body smart? You know, but no, there's a smart there. You've got something there. So I think it's kind of key to use the word smart with our kiddos. One thing she said is it's not, am I smart now? It's how am I smart? Yes, you're smart, but it's how am I smart? So, and another way this could do is can guide their purpose for their life and what they do for God. So. Another thing she said is, so as we're speaking these smarts over our kiddos, focusing on the character surrounding the smart. I'm going to quote her here. She said, strengths not harnessed can actually become their biggest weaknesses. So let's say we have our logic smart. All of a sudden they're so logic, they need an answer for everything. They're atheists because God doesn't quite make sense. So you see how that strength can become their biggest weakness? Or they are great word smart. They can talk people down. They can cut them down. Does that make sense? They can gossip well. So their strength became their biggest weakness. Athletes, they get arrogant. And what else was there? Oh, in my case, the people who are artsy smart and they can put together an outfit and then they judge the girl that doesn't quite know how to do that. So your strengths can be a weakness, so we have to focus on their character surrounding that. So when we went through this, we sat around a year ago when I read this, and it's always very cheesy. They're like, Mom just read a book, because here comes Mom. We're all sitting there, here's your smarts, guys. Now, how are these good, and how can you use your smart for good, and how can you use your smart for bad? So with Dulcie, you can be moving all over in school, or you can focus and use your gymnastics. She's great at that. With us and that sort of thing. And Garrison in the logic smart, he's so good at figuring things out that he can downplay others. Or London with her word smart, she does great in school, but she can downplay others. So how can we use that to be uplifting? And so it's really focusing around character, because that's like the huge part.
Now, I do find myself at times being annoyed when I see her reading a new book. But then, when she sees me secretly trying to use some of these, secretly I might add so that she doesn't see me using them, and then I'm thinking, okay, maybe some of this is all right.
It is pretty cheesy, though. We get cheesy, but so how to identify your child smart. So most of you probably know if you have younger kids, and then they start flourishing and you see it. And a lot of them probably have some of your traits, so you'll know. So a few things is what they do in their spare time. How they spend their money. Grayson, he's my logic, he spends his money on Lego, so he's, so he knows it from there. If they spend their money on books, they're more word smart. What they talk about at school, if it's sports and recess, this is what I did, they may be body smart. If they, and then I love this one because I think all of us can identify with this. You can identify it the most on how they get on your nerves and how they misbehave. And those are like perfect. So Dulcie, if I'm close in her vicinity, I will get socked in the face. She gets on my nerves when she hits me. So she's body smart. How was the other? Was there? Grayson.
Or London. Sorry.
What?
London, you ended up with a bags and bags of, because she used to go outside and get stuff out in
Nature,
nature.
yes.
You know, she could bring in leaves. She's always giving me a leaf, giving me rocks. And so I've come to this thing where I'm like, honey, you can bring them in the house, but they have to be in a bag. So now we get all these bags of rocks
Nature, all that
and
sort of
leaves,
stuff.
dirt. We get a lot of different things. So.
Yeah. What was that like? Oh, the logic smart kids need reasons before they obey. So they'll be like, why? Why do I have to do that? Why do I have to do that? They always want reasons, but there's an underlying thing for that. They want it to make sense to them. Their logic, they want it to all figure out. Talk too much in class, they're word smart, that's how they misbehave. People smart, they manipulate. They know how to manipulate mom and dad. Does that make sense? Or they can manipulate their friends and things like that. So think about what gets on your nerves, and that's probably how they're smart. So Dulcie, when we first got her, we're trying to get her to calm down. And she talks about our job is to paralyze their smarts or to nurture their smarts, and how can we do that? And I'm quoting her again, she says, you need to think of that problem, that annoyance is not a problem to eliminate, but a strength to develop. So not a problem to eliminate, but a strength to develop. So I was thinking of that with my Dulcie, and okay, how do we not try to eliminate this, but strengthen it? And you know, it kind of makes sense, you would get them into certain things. But things Garrison has done is they say you intertwine things. So let's say school is not her thing. Let's say your boy is body smart and wants to run all over the place, and you can't get him to do his, 1 and 2 logic things. You intertwine the body smart. So Garrison, between spelling words or memory verses, she's doing burpees, and she is as happy as can be doing those burpees in between her spelling, or running up and down the stairs. Like
She actually learns better.
She does.
No,
She's just
burpees are the worst.
They're
Yes.
horrible. And she's so strong and everything, but that's how she learns. She learns with her body.
It
So,
amazes me how she does the burpees. And how many she does.
so I don't know if with like your boys, if they seem like that, how you could incorporate that. You got to get clever. And she has a lot of different things in there that you could learn. But so yeah, I thought that was good. I'm almost done. I'm sorry, guys. So ways to nurture word smart. So I'm just going to go through kind of some nurturing and how you can paralyze their smarts. So nurturing a word smart person when they're talking so much, trying to really, that's almost like their love language. So listening to their story, taking time to really listen to, because they are wordy and that's what they like to do. And not say, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. That's how you'll paralyze that smart. Logic smart is if you always say, you paralyze it by saying, because I said so. As parents, we get authoritarian and we want to say, because I said so. And there's a time to do that. But remembering, if they are logic, they want some reasonings behind it, and don't paralyze their thinking. And a way to nurture it also is asking, so what are your thoughts? How do you think that works? How does that go? Yeah. So picture smart, I think the main thing there, and that's important for me who doesn't get art at all, is to take that skill seriously. We paralyze it if we don't give it just as much credit as the A on the report card from London. Does that make sense? So taking that skill very seriously, because that is their smart and it's just as important. Music, they said you can paralyze that smart if you don't enjoy their music preference or take that seriously, the rap and things like that. Obviously you want to watch words, but so taking that seriously. And the body smart, they said body smart kids, they are usually the ones who get in trouble all the time in school. So they can always feel like a bad kid. So, and I don't know how this would go over well with teachers, but she talked about saying, he's very body smart, so sitting at school doesn't come naturally to him. I don't know how a teacher would take that. But you're kind of lifting up your child a little bit more and saying, this is part of who he moves, and we're working on it. They said you can drum fingers so it doesn't make noise, just something to help them move. I guess that's a fidget spinners. They probably can't have those in school, but instead of just saying, we paralyze them by saying, why can't you just sit still? That paralyzes their strength. And to nurture it, you kind of say it, nurturing words type thing. But yeah, they're the ones who have very negative school experience, especially if they are not word and logic smart. So they just feel like a failure at school. They're body smart, but that's not conducive to school. And then they're not word and logic smart. So that can be a really tough situation for that kiddo. So it's speaking that, I'm almost done. I know I'm flipping a lot of pages. Nature smart, you just get them outdoors, making sure you expose them to that, do chores outside, that sort of thing. They love that. People smart, just getting with people. And then self smart is another one that's interesting. That one, we can paralyze that smart if we say you're such a loner, or we feed that into them a little bit. You're a loner. Why don't you want to do this? Why don't you want to get out with people? Your head's always in the book. That can kind of paralyze them. Obviously, they want to work on their people smart, but we have to affirm how God created them, and that when they do talk, they're going to have some good stuff because they really were in their mind thinking this through. So that sort of thing. They said that those kids actually, people are too much for them sometimes, that they actually do good in a homeschool environment. You take that for what you want, but so that's how she kind of talked in that regard. So, and then I just wanted to give an example by learning this. So we did this about a year ago. We completely got away from it, and then it was refreshed just now again. But a year ago, we were, the kids, we had friends over, I think grandparents, family over, and Dulcie, my body smart girl, was ready to do a back walkover off of a chair. And she perfectly. Then Grayson, my older one, so a younger sister doing better than an older one, that's a bad recipe for disaster, yeah. So he tries to do it, falls, hurts himself, the combination of sister better, hurt himself, everyone's there, screaming, it was bad, he ran off and just mad, wasn't going to come down with anyone anymore. And so I went upstairs and just kind of talked to him because I knew it was deeper than just I was hurt, and Dulcie chuckled a little. That was really bad. But so I was just like, buddy, do you remember, how did God make Dulcie? What's her smart? And he was like, body smart. And I'm like, so that just comes really easy to her. I could kind of talk him through that. And I was like, do you remember what your smart is? Remember your Legos, like how you can put them all together? And his face kind of lit up. And remember your logic smart? Do you remember that? And it kind of almost helped in that sibling rivalry moment, that younger sister, does that make sense? You're able to kind of come to that, circle around to that. We've been there, we've done that, we know how God created you too. So that's kind of a way that it kind of worked in our family after we did that. And then the last little thing I want to do, and then we'll go to talking, is Garrison and I listened to one thing I forced this poor guy to do, is 12 mistakes every parent makes, this podcast that this Christian psychiatrist, psychologist focused on. One of the mistakes was, as we're talking about their smarts and their, how God made them, one of the mistakes he said is if we praise an outcome or raw talent over their character and their effort. So he said, never praise the outcome or the raw talent over the character or their effort surrounding that. Because then you get yourself into this performance-driven type mentality. So you're amazingly smart. Oh, that's not good. Your effort behind how you got that grade was good. Does that make sense? Otherwise, praise can be very toxic, and praise has been toxic in my life. Maybe just the way I'm made. I can become very performance-driven, so I'll feed off just more praise. I can't get enough. It's intoxicating type of thing. But if you kind of praise that character and that effort surrounding that, as opposed to that. And I just, he gave an example of a football player who won the Heisman Trophy. So he did amazing. They asked the dad afterwards in an interview, how proud are you of that, of your son? And have you heard this before, Daryl?
Yeah.
I didn't know who it was. Yeah.
Sanders.
And he said, I would be just as proud if he did not win that Heisman Trophy. And for me, being a performance-driven person, those words, I think, are life-giving to our performing kids. Like, your outcome was great. I'm excited. I'll cheer for you for that. But everything before that, character and everything, that's what I love. So that outcome. And I think it takes away some of the toxicity of praise that Satan wants to have a heyday with us, if that makes sense. If you have performance-driven kids, I think that would help. So I'm glad you knew that, Daryl, because I didn't know who it was. So that's pretty much it. It's a really good book. If anyone wants to borrow it, they can.
What's the title of it?
8 Great Smarts by Kathy Kopp.
Feel free to come to our house at night, and Shelby will go over with you. We might even watch videos together, too.
I hope that wasn't too long and wordy.
Yeah, can we ask some questions to you guys?
We love this. This is awesome.
Yeah, question, throw them.
So, having multiple kids, like you guys do, is it hard to not diminish or sort of trample one of their smarts while trying to manage the other ones? Like, I know for us, Kofi, our oldest, is very word smart and logic smart. We can go an entire dinner where he doesn't stop talking, and nobody else talk. And so I'm constantly saying, hey, let's let other people talk. And so after listening to you, I feel like I'm sort of trampling his smartness.
I don't think so, though.
But you know what I'm saying? Like,
But you can kind of teach him how to be mindful that it's not all about him, too. You know what I mean? So,
right.
I appreciate that. Maybe tell me more about this later. So while we're at dinner, let's let someone else talk now. But can you tell me before bed while I tuck you in?
Okay.
You could do something like that.
Yeah.
There's more to it with that too, though, because you can, like, I like sports. I like, there's things that I enjoy, or even with your son, you like doing stuff with your son. So you're spending more time enjoying their smarts, I guess you could say, and then you're kind of putting the others to the side. So
The art or music.
Yeah, sometimes because I don't like art. I just don't. I mean, it's just it bores me. I mean, it just does.
Send him to Mike, because he's got tons he's very creative.
So I'll just invite Mike over.
Yeah, he just invites us to no art.
So I guess it's just being aware is the first step.
I think Jeffrey, and then
That's fine.
I was just going to tag on Justin. We have a word smart, or Polish, I would say it's word smart. So one of the things that I've done is, yes, she will dominate, and you have to interrupt her. But in trying to cultivate that, getting her to think about her siblings, her two siblings at the table, and say, now, Lexi, I want you to ask them. I want you to lead the conversation. And that gives her ability to kind of use her strength. But at the same time, think about, there are other people at the table that have something to share. They may not share as much as she does. That's okay. But at least she can lead it and use her strength at the same time. And then you don't have to be the cop. You can be, hey, I see a gift here. Go with it.
Yeah.
So that's what we've done with Lex.
I was going to ask how you, when you introduced this first to the kids, did you ask them what they thought their smart was before you kind of spoke into your observations, or how did you?
So I'm going to guess that Shelby asked them
I don't
what their
remember.
smarts were first. But they all know now what their smarts are. So I'm guessing she probably asked what they thought.
And I think it was
And they
very
kind of
easy
discovered
for them.
themselves a little
Yeah,
bit,
once I
and then-
explained them,
Yeah.
I think it was pretty easy for them to know. Logic smart, I think it's harder for a kid to come up with that. So you might need to guide that.
How do you differentiate between logic and self? I feel like that's...
Well, logic is more, self is you reflect deeply, almost like on abstract thoughts. You learn from in yourself, whereas logic is how things, like he wants to play Monopoly and Legos and figure things out too, like things around the house, you figure it out. Or sometimes like, chemistry, sciences. They said math, they're really good at math there. It's just, it makes sense, it's discrete. 2 + 2 = 4.
Like a puzzle?
A puzzle.
Yeah.
Engineer smart.
Yeah, it's just very concrete and factual. Grayson, my logic smart, when he creative writing is so bad, he's like, Mom, why can't I just write about facts? And I'm like, oh, you melt my factual heart.
Now, do you guys discipline the kids differently based on because their smarts and their personalities are so different? Like, I mean, Dulcie, she's a mover and a shaker. So, like, would you time her out before Grayson because he could sit there and do a puzzle for 2 hours and it wouldn't faze him? Or do you just or does it?
I think we're just aware when she's doing it, she knows that we're like, remember how to use your body. She's about ready to hit someone. She's so strong and she doesn't mean to. So I don't know that we discipline differently, but we have different cues.
She might get in trouble more often with me just because I'm annoyed.
Yeah.
But learning the fact that she does this sometimes without thinking, but I constantly say you need to think about things before you do it. Your smart is your body, because that body is flying everywhere. It literally is. I probably had 6 broken noses, and that's not a joke. And so, she is all over the place. She has trouble controlling herself, but I've noticed, at least over the last, since she's come here to the United States with us, that she's grown tremendously. She's starting to realize, you know, that I do need to control. Sometimes she can't, but I think just us being aware of it and saying it is a strength, but you have to control it. Don't let it be a negative in the end. So, with discipline though, if anything, she might get in trouble a little more, just like at school. But it's me being aware that it's just who she is, and that's the way I used to be. It's funny because my dad said, because I was just very hyper and I was all over the place, and I mean my legs are always still moving now with coffee and talking a lot. But my dad always said it's going to come back and haunt you someday. Our first two, biological, nothing. I'm like, I've got this made, and we're adopting. There's not going to be any genes there. She's just like me. Like Dulcie is just like I was as a kid. I mean, just to the T, everything. So God has a great sense of humor, and so that's helped me too, though, because I know what she's like, and it kind of wakes me up a little bit too. Is I need to be a little more patient, more forbearance, or whatever, and just give more love, and just back off discipline a little bit, just because you're annoying. So.
Dale.
Yeah, how have you helped your kids not to get caught up in their smart, meaning that society views different smarts differently.
Mm-hmm.
So society puts value on, especially now, the body smart. If your kids are around athletics are really, really good, society's telling them, hey, you're awesome, and that can feed. How do you help your kids kind of stay grounded?
We have been, I've always been really hard on, not hard, but hard as in saying, listen up. Sports are great, and you guys might be great, but it's just sports, who cares? It's just for fun. And ever since they're little kids, I've said that, which is, I was in sports all the way through, and, I played in college just for a little bit, and then got homesick, came home, and then, got tryouts to the Arena League and went to that stuff. So I love sports. I love football. I put time into it. And so for me, coming back, I never knew how I'd be with my kids, but I think I came to the realization after all that, you put so much focus in it and that was like my mindset during that time in my life. So when you come back, when you're older, you're like, well, that was all meaningless, and I've got aches and pains all over my body just for that short time I played. It was all meaningless. And then I'm thinking, well, it'd be better off if I just studied, but studied more. So I guess in my mindset, I'm thinking, okay, first of all, what is most important? Christ is most important. Sports are just sports, okay? It's just for fun. Let's not get sucked into this culture of they need to be doing all this stuff. I understand that, Dulcie is really good at gymnastics. We don't put her in unless, because we've been doing a lot of family stuff. So it's just, I guess we're just trying to show that it's just for fun, I guess is what, when it comes to sports, or what's another example that we can give for that?
I think we're just constantly saying that this is just for fun. Yeah.
Well, even with education, some of them,
which can be hard for me.
Yeah, Garrison, him and I have to work a lot harder together. He gets good grades, but him and I work hard. We don't have to work as hard with some. Mm-hmm. And so, but I also tell him, if you got a B, I said, I don't care. I said, I don't, because I know you've worked hard.
It's praising the effort and not the...
And that's just...
the outcome, yeah.
But even if he gets a B, I'm like, well, then we're going to kick it up. But if you don't get that A even after that, I don't care. It doesn't matter. You worked hard, and I'm proud of you, and that's all that matters. Because I even say, even if you get a C, but if we get the D and F, then we might have a problem. But so that's where we're at. So I don't know if that helps. Yeah. I'm speaking as you're thinking too. So.
Yeah, we're doing right now. We're doing home gymnastics. So it's just me, Dulcie, and London. So London's not as good. Dulcie's amazing. And so we can work just us three together, and we talk as Dulcie does her amazing thing and London does her little thing. She's small thing. I'm teaching Dulcie, so what do you say now? This is you're smart, but we need to be really encouraging London here too. And so she just learns right away. Or, just spending that time with them, I think, is the big thing, and teaching them that you're not just this amazing person.
Now, you don't have any concern, like, if she keeps progressing, I guess you'll cross that bridge when you...
That she'll start thinking she's amazing, or?
Well, not necessarily starts thinking that she's amazing, but how can you encourage that if it could possibly, take her somewhere, let's say, high school, college, or whatever? I mean, have you kind of thought that far in advance?
We have. I think sometimes to go far, you have to put your whole, we were in Atlantis on a medical conference on this Bahamas. There were all these kids there in their gymnastics uniforms. To go far, like the whole family goes to the Atlantis. Do you know what I mean? So we're almost like we're never going to invest that much. I love her and I'm going to invest a little bit.
Sure.
But to go be an Olympian, and I think her
We just
character,
don't think it's the most important.
Right, we just don't want her character to be flawed. And God may use it, but our family and I can't suffer because of it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I don't know.
Your kids that know they're smarts, do they ever try to say, well, that's not my smart, I don't need to worry about that, or try to, nature's their thing,
They never really bring up their smarts.
They don't.
Okay.
Until I have just read the
Shelby
book and I
reminds
do.
them constantly.
Yeah.
So.
And they know they're, but they won't say
They
my
know what
smart.
they are, but they don't
Yeah.
say, well, that's my smart.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the thought I had was, remember APES, apostle, prophet, teacher. I'm kind of thinking out loud too. You can be strong in one or two of those, but it doesn't let you off the hook from trying in the other area.
Yes.
If you're not a strong evangelist, hey, you may need to witness to your
Right.
at some point, even if it's not your strength. Kind of the same thing there.
Right.
They're not smart in some of these areas. You should still expose them to music,
Yes.
expose them to nature, and put forth effort in those areas.
That's a good point.
And that's what they kind of said. You need to try to cultivate them all, which can be overwhelming. We have 4 kids and they're all in different areas. So we haven't done anything
God
with
bless
music or anything with art yet. It's kind of in my back burner for when Dietrich gets older. We're doing gymnastics. You just can't. And I think God has grace. We can only do so much. But it's in my back burner, okay? Eventually, we'll get Dietrich guitar lessons or something. But not at the expense of our family unit, if that makes sense. So...
So, with word and logic.
What'd you say?
With word and logic, smart, since it's so applicable for a long portion of their life. If their strength is down there, is she author?
Yes.
Does she give suggestions for how to integrate their smarts in that word and logic world?
She
that
does.
they're-
Yeah, so and I didn't get into all that, but if you would want to borrow the book or get it, she would say how to use your strength to help with where you're weak.
Okay.
So let's say you're not word smart, but you're super picture smart. So she makes she'll do spelling to make it look like a picture. She explains some of that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can use what your strength is.
Okay.
To
I
help.
didn't really get the book.
Yeah, it's good. I liked it.
I can't borrow because I got to highlight. So.
Oh, okay.
Me too, Angie.
Yes.
So this book is based on 8th graders, right?
Oh no, it's 8 great smarts.
Oh.
There's 8
okay.
smarts. Yeah, so I think it's for any age.
Okay.
And us, adults.
Well, I have a 13-year-old who's in 8th grade, and all of his classmates are older. They're 14, because I put him in early because he was very smart. He copied his older brothers. Now we're going through some sort of teenage angst or something where this wonderful, loving, huggable child has now turned into somebody I don't know. And it's like he feels that he knows everything and he's superior, and then there's other times where he'll just hang out in his room and you go in there and say, hey, how you doing? And he's like, what? And it's like, I just wanted to tell you good night. I love you, and I'll see you in the morning. Fine. I'll say good night. I love you. See you in the morning. Okay, go away. And it's like, wow. What do you do in this? other ones seem to have found their niche. But he has tried different things. He's getting good grades. He got all A's and 1B, and that's great. But he's the most disorganized soul I've ever seen. I mean, you can follow him around, you know, and be picking things up, but is that like a normal thing for boys? I mean, I knew it was normal for girls, but
I actually can speak to that, not based on this book, but
But before, I was just saying, first and foremost, obviously, is prayer. You know, pray, 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 pray. Have your friends pray. Have your anybody pray, because that's power of prayer, man. They'll knock that kid on his feet, on his butt. I mean, you know what I mean? It will. So
we
it's pretty.
pray.
God's pretty amazing. So especially if you truly believe and have faith that it's going to happen, and know that through Him it will happen. So just a thought. Continue.
there is this podcast that it's called God-Centered Mom Podcast. You can download it on your phone, but I can kind of speak to it. And one of them is raising boys. And it's a child psychologist, and he said, to maybe give you a little bit of biology behind how he's acting, he counsels boys, and he says, I see more boys, 4-year-old boys, and like 13-year-old boys in my office that I have to counsel more than anything, because there's this testosterone surge at that age. And we can attest to that. Garrison he would go up in his room and like tear his room apart at age 4, and we're like, what happened to our sweet child? That testosterone surge. So if you maybe have a little bit of biology behind that maybe, okay, maybe this is short-lived, but
it's been a year.
yeah, I don't know. He may need counseling or something. I don't know. You know what I mean? Who knows what's going on in his heart?
Yeah, I did put him in counseling with a lady counselor, and he likes her, but there doesn't seem to be anything coming out of it. And she's a Christian counselor. I mean, I told her, you know, the things that I wanted to work on with him, but there doesn't seem to be any results. I don't know. And we pray every day. Even his brothers pray for him. You know, when we're doing our prayer before dinner, and Jacob will be like, and please help Justin to be nicer and treat Mom better, you know. And he just kind of, I don't think he really is taking it. I don't know, you know. It just seems like he's just. And then when it's his turn to do prayer, he'll just be like, "Thank you, God, for this day and for this food, and bless our family, amen." I'm like, okay, that was short. I said, but you forgot something. I said, we have to pray everything in Jesus' name. And he'll be like, okay, in Jesus' name, whatever. I'll be like, that didn't sound heartfelt. How do you think God feels about hearing him? I don't know, maybe I'm taking on it too much. I don't know.
Does he have a strong male figure in his life, or anyone that?
Well, you know, his dad and I are divorced. And he sees him every other weekend, but I would not call his dad. We're divorced for a reason.
Or a grandfather, or just anyone?
Oh
that
yeah,
you
my
would-
dad.
Yeah.
But my dad has little patience with Justin's behaviors, because he'll still have like meltdowns like little kids do at times. He'll be like, oh my God, we always have to have this for dinner. And that's not true.
What do you think, Garrison? I think sometimes boys need to hear things from men. Sometimes, not every time, but
Definitely.
you think there's value in.
Oh,
Well, that's
definitely.
what I'm thinking.
Definitely.
Is there needs to be a role model that's available at times when his dad's not around, that would actually work on these kinds of things. You know, he's in downtown now. They just moved up every other weekend, and you know, this is, you know, just started, so I don't know. I'm hoping that will help. because Izzy's really good.
Jeff could probably speak on this.
Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say,
He grew up without a dad.
you know, just not having a dad. God, and I think echoing what Garrison said, I think there were a lot of people praying for me, and God brought a lot of men into my life. So it may not be you that's going to be the one that kind of connects with him and makes it. So you may just want to be his mom. I think it's hard because you may be trying to be mom and dad at the same time. Single moms are heroes, you know. I know from my experience, but God brought men into my life that were just divine appointments for me. And so, and they were in my life for maybe a few years, and then, you know, they were out. But it was at crucial points along the way. And I was one that misbehaved, and, you know, I was constantly in the principal's office and all of that. But just to give you a little hope, you know, God will bring those men into his life. And, you know, I was going to say my son, Zach, he's kind of got that reaction to things that happen that he doesn't understand. And he'll have these outbursts. I was kind of thinking of as you were talking about. And so, like, just this weekend, he had this big outburst, and I just knelt down right beside him. I said, Zach, you didn't understand what just happened. So I was quiet. I didn't yell at him. I wasn't nitpicking. I said, this is actually what happened. So it was totally his perception of things that caused him to have that outburst. And he's very emotional. He will react to something immediately from his emotional side before he processes it logically.
Yeah.
So just recognize that. He sounds as emotional as my son Zach, and he just misperceived something, and you may have to come back around and say, you know what, this is actually what happened. And it's this quiet, gentle way, you know, in a way that's not threatening, but just, you know, whether it's physically moving him out of that environment where he just, you know, it caused that emotional flare up, you know, doing something that he likes, you know, connect with him in a way.
That's the problem with the other two, because that's what my dad told me. He said, you need to do one-on-one time with each boy, you know, focusing on something they like. Well, it's kind of hard for him because for a while he liked doing magic tricks, you know. And then when I say, well, you want to show me a magic trick? No. Okay, let's see what else we have. Rap music, I don't care for it. I mean, some of it is good, but what he listens to, I do not think it is, and I have to inappropriate, turn it off.
Right. Well, and I think, again, it's that issue of, you know, God connecting someone with him that's going to meet that really heartfelt need. And, you know, the solution may not necessarily come through you. You know, you just be his mom and praying for him, and, you know, in a way that, you know, really is meaningful to him. Just let him know you care about him. And I think that was the most important thing that I received, you know, from my mom. Because God bless my mom. I don't know how she kept me alive. You know, that's the way I feel.
Well, one thing I do that he seems to like is every now and then, if he has his door shut, I'll write him a little note and slide it under his door. And he always answers it back, you know.
Interesting. There you go. There's a connection.
Which is kind of cool, but I think if I do it every day, that's kind of...
Yeah, intermittently. Yeah. He doesn't want to feel manipulated. And that's probably what you're sensing. That reaction is mom's trying to manipulate you. Just, you know, say, you know, I'm not doing it because I'm trying to control you. That's what he's sensing. I just love you.
Yeah, I told him I want you to be the best that you can be. And whatever I can do to help you, you know, find what you want in the world, you know, that's what I'm here for. But you need to communicate.
Right. And it may not be 10, 15, 20 years till you hear back from them, hey, that made a difference, Mom. But, you know, I know that's not why you're doing it, but, you know, at the same time, you may not know you're making a difference till much later.
Well, thank you. very helpful, and I'm sorry to take.
Oh, you're fine.
Can we pray for you? What's your name?
Yep.
My name's Kelly, and his name is Justin.
Okay, so we'll be, right, everyone?
Let's go ahead and, why don't we just pray now?
Yeah. Thank you.
You're Kelly, and then he's Justin, correct?
Mhm.
Lord, we just praise you. We just thank you that, if anything, Lord, this moment has come to bring Kelly here so that we can pray for Justin, Lord. And Lord, that prayer is the most powerful thing ever, Lord. It's a gift that you've given to us, and we just praise you for prayer. We also understand, Father, that everything is so in your timing. It's possible that Kelly may never even see the fruits of her prayer, Lord, in this lifetime. Lord, we don't know, Lord, but it's also possible that we can see the fruits right away too. And it's all up to you, Father, and we give that to you because we want your will, Lord. We want what you have. We want what your desires are for Justin, and how you're molding him, Lord, and how you're using him to help him to grow to be a man that you desire.